There we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Election Commission meeting of Wednesday, January 21, 2015. Happy New Year to all. It is 6 o'clock. Just call the meeting to order. And now the roll call. Commissioner Rowe.
Here.
Commissioner Jordanek.
Here.
Commissioner Safant.
Here.
Commissioner Yu.
Here.
Commissioner Jung. Here. And I'm also here. Commissioner Matthews. Item 2, public comment on any issue within our jurisdiction unless it's otherwise included on this agenda. Good evening, Mr. Carey.
Good evening. My name is David Carey. I just want to make a short comment and deliver the petition that I talked about at the last two meetings here. The petition reads, stop hiding our votes, report full tallies for all RCV contests, at least twice on election night, once with the initial release of tallies within an hour after the polls close, and again at the end of the election night processing. Always supply ballot data with RCV tallies to allow independent verification. It was kind of interesting to me that as I kind of stood out in the street and watched for strangers to come by and I asked if they're interested in dealing with this issue, that a lot of people are just not interested, but many people were. And while I only collected these small number of signatures in a short amount of time, it was interesting to me that there wasn't anybody who thought that the practice of this last election was a good idea, that things should be improved, that improvements have been shown to be possible in 2012, and I look forward to the Commission updating its policy, which was last addressed in 2011. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And there is no other public. Item 3, approval of minutes from the previous meeting. May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any commissioner discussion? Great. Is there any public comment? Seeing none. A roll call vote. Commissioner Rowe.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordanek.
Yes.
Commissioner Safant.
Yes.
Commissioner Yu.
Yes.
Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. It is adopted. Thank you all. Item 4, commissioner reports. So a few things I will report. So under previous authority, I think in October, I had DHR go ahead and publish the job opening for commission secretary. So that interval is passed. I set up Jill as the recipient. Jill, have you received it? Okay, you've heard from DHR. Yes.
Yes.
Great. So Jill will be catching those, and she will schedule as she sees fit, interviews and whatnot. Let's see, what else did I owe you guys? I owed you capturing the previous documents from not 2014, but actually 2013. I think one might have even been called letters that the commission sent on issues we discussed last month. But I will provide those. And I remembered yesterday, when I had no time to do anything yesterday or today, a whole bunch of other stuff I wanted to include in the annual report. So I'm going to be taking item 7 off because there's other stuff that I just forgot that really should go in because it's interesting and it's really cool and positive. And so I will get all that. I would say 10 days. Like by the end of next week, I'll get you those letters combined with all the email correspondence that surrounded those letters, combined with the annual report. You'll all get that by. I'm pretty comfortable committing to that by a week from this coming Friday, 10 days from now, or 9 days from now. And I think that's it. Just to let you guys know, I haven't heard anything from my appointing authority. So he and I did have the city attorney did, he and I had a conversation in the first week of January about my ineligibility to continue to serve and all of that. And he said some very nice things, but it's now on his radar, and he expressed that he will attend to this at some point. As you guys know, under the charter, a commissioner can only hold over up to 60 days. So I wouldn't necessarily expect to still be a commissioner, much longer. you know, I think it'll be a matter of days, not weeks. And that is my report at this time, I think. Any other commissioners have anything to report since last month?
I do have a question on the commission secretary
Yeah.
applications. Have we gotten any applications?
Yeah, the application process is closed. We have 90-something applications, and I have reviewed them, and I'll be in touch with whoever becomes our next president about the procedure to put that on the agenda for our next meeting, and we can deal with it then. And if anybody has any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me.
All right. Seeing none, any public comment on commissioner reports? Seeing none?
Actually, can I make one last
Of
comment?
course.
All of the applications are available online with a password that can be provided to anybody who wants to review them. So there's no magic to me being the recipient other than somebody needed to receive them. So if you want to take a look, let me know. I'll give you the info so you can look at them yourselves.
And I think you have the authority, if you want, and to make decisions and, you know, do a culling and call in. If I remember October correct, we can check those minutes, but I think you have that authority for like schedule. But it's all to you. Very well. End of item 4. Item 5, director's report. Good evening, Director Orange.
Good evening. So on the admin side, we completed the Trans-Bay Transit District special election at the end of December. We did a webcast of the tabulation of the ballots. For the first time, we included audio. So again, that's just something we tried to see if it's something we can do for other aspects that go into the die for the selection of the 1% minimum tally precincts. And also just to sort of put it out there that we're always trying to find ways to be more transparent in our processes. We also did recorded the tabulation because we do a lot of special elections, so we have that. We can compare and contrast our approaches to these different elections and see if we can make them better, more transparent, more efficient as we go forward. The admin division, most of the folks are preparing the budget for the next 2 fiscal years. We intend to get the budget documents to the BOPEC next week, time for your meeting in the beginning of February. Then we've already submitted to the school district and city college for reimbursement. We're also preparing for an annual audit from the controller's office. The controller's office will randomly select some invoices and review the processes around those invoices to make sure that we're following all the practices and procedures around invoicing and payment that the city has. So we've never related. And so then they grade you on a percentage scale. We've never been 100% or whatever. It's never any egregious issue. Sometimes it's a late filing or something like that. But so we're doing very good.
John, I'm sorry, I missed it. Who is
The controller's office.
Controller's
Or
office.
audit division.
Thanks. All right.
A lot of folks are asking to take training and classes, so the admin's been setting that up with DHR so they can get payment and reimbursement for their classes. The ballot distribution. One thing also in admin which involves me more directly would be, so I was been in contact with the port the past few weeks regarding warehouse space. Right now, it doesn't seem like the department would obtain port property that would contain an entire warehouse operation. So potentially, if the department were to continue as a lessee of port properties, we would have potentially 2 locations to house our warehousing and election functions. I'm not saying that's the next step. That's what would happen right now if we were to stay with the port. I'll need to get some sort of time frame from the port. I don't have it yet, as what they can offer us and at what point in time. And then I'll also start the conversation back up with Department of Real Estate, and see if there's any new sites since before the election when I was visiting sites in Brisbane with real estate. And also I've contacted a private broker as well to see if there's something that they could do to help us find a warehouse location. So that's gonna be a big issue for us going forward, is trying to obtain that warehouse. So if anyone on the commission has contacts in the real estate world, commercial brokers, anyone owns space or works with the city, be very interested in working with those people trying to find a warehouse location. Ballot distribution. So right now, every election, they sit down and they review numbers and totals from their processes from past elections, and they make projections. Now they're at the point where we're sitting down and looking at their projections, comparing it to actuals from this past election. If you remember correctly, we designed this vote by mail ballot tracking table that we placed on our website. It was the first edition, and it's unique to any department in the country. I was talking it up before the November election, and it worked. It worked really well. It's hard. Some folks didn't find it. It was a difficult location, and we knew, like I said, going in, it wasn't going to be a perfect launch. And I'm sure the next version will have a few hiccups as well. But there was one after election day till about 4 days after election. There was a period where we were like 3,000 envelopes or ballots or envelopes worth of ballots short in our tracking. So we got to figure out that hole in our process. But everything matched up at the end though. So we're also looking at that program, and we'll again have that information on our website. And again, that's what we use to track the processing of ballots, is the categories. The categories are what we use ourselves, but we've also humanized it, so it's not just nomenclature that people can understand. And then going forward, we'll make it in more of right now it's an HTML presentation of information. So we'll probably look at making an open data format as well, so people can download that information and play with it, do what they want with it. So that's one thing that we're looking at too, about distribution division is looking at. This group, it's been about 4 years now since we really started to develop the use of measurements and evaluations of staffing time attributed to work on specific tasks. So this group has the most experience, and now they're also working with the poll worker section and also with the polling place section of the department. They have already worked with voter services in developing data sets and measurements that those divisions can use to figure out where they are in time as far as the work is concerned. So now they're showing the road, and they're working with the other two sections. So that'll be going on in the next several months. So we develop the data sets and start to make some projections. Then also this group, a lot of folks are, so we worked with the radio frequency identification equipment and software last election with the vendor that we selected through the bid process. And now we're in the second generation of developing the software. So the vendor's been in the past 2 weeks actually, working with the ballot distribution division folks, with the warehouse, with the polling place folks. And so that's rather significant amount of time going into that, because we're basically changing over how we track all of our stuff, and then we're adding how we actually track our processes by using the radio RFID. So and really the hardware's, it's standard. It's the software that matters. So the development of software is what we're trying to let them do. On campaign services side, the calendar for the November election is posted on our website. So again, remember that the contest for District 3 Supervisor will be on the ballot in November. Because it's a vacancy election since David Chu gained the assembly this past November, and the District 3 Board of Supervisors contest will be on the ballot again in November of 2016, which will be the regularly scheduled election for that contest. So both that board, District 3C, and the mayor's office has an earlier filing deadline because the charter amendment a couple of years ago. So E-147, which is June 9th, is the filing deadline for both the District 3 board seat and the mayor. All other local contests will have the filing deadline on E-88, which falls on August 7th this year. So just keep that in mind. The candidate guide, want to have that done, posted, reviewed, posted by next week. Then also in the hopper and has been reviewed once are the ballot argument guide and forms. So we'll include that. And as we go through this too, what we'd like to do is start to post this information more in real time as we get it. And also we're using data formats that people can assess and combine from different, so they can combine information from different files into their own file and how they want to present or consider the information. So one thing that we'll be looking at for this upcoming election is scanning the paid arguments as they come over the counter or even before they get to the counter, and then posting those in near real time so that people have time to consider and to potentially post any, to provide any objections or whatever to what's in an argument. That way, because there's only a 10-day review period for the information, so if we can expedite that, would be better. On the outreach side, so they're putting together their after-election report, just a few numbers from that. So they contacted 737 organizations for the November election, and they attended 173 outreach events. And from their calculation, they had contact with almost 86,000 people before the November election. Doesn't mean they spoke individually to 86,000 people, but the events that they attended and the tablings and the brochures they gave out and the newsletters they put up, they figured it's around 86,000 people. And I think that's a valid number. Also, this group is the one that organizes and staffs the vote by mail drop-off stations outside City Hall. And we had about 4,200 ballots dropped off at both stations on Grove and Gula.
Sorry, can you say that number again?
4,200.
4,200.
We're going over 4,200. Also, for those of you who follow our Twitter account, you'll know that we've had a survey posted on our website. And also the link to the survey was tweeted and Facebooked out. And we had nearly 3,000 responses to our survey. And the survey was encompassed the users' sense, the usability of our website. And so, and we try to make it really simple. It's the first time we've done this, and we did get many, like several hundred comments. Many aren't really relevant to our purposes, but some have some good information that we can implement. So we closed down the survey. I think it was up for a month. Yeah, we put it up for a month. They've been going to the USCIS ceremonies twice a month. So next week they'll be organizing with other Bay Area counties to see if we can do a joint outreach effort for the November election in 2016, to see if we can't do sort of a uniform message or uniform materials. We'll still have San Francisco specific information, but maybe there's a way that we can, as a group, leverage our staff and our resources and get the word out in more ways to more people to vote and to register to vote for the November 2016 election. It's the first time we've done this, so we'll see how that goes. And also they've been working, they Publications have been organizing the transition of our materials into Filipino, so there's been work going on for that already. The poll worker section, they've been inputting the surveys from the feds, and then also the two election deputies, and then also they've been inputting the procedural, how can you say it, measurements that both of the inspectors have. You know, they put everything in the right bag, and they post the ballot statement. So they've been putting information into the database, so we know who was a good inspector, who was, perhaps needs some help with some of the procedures. They've been also preparing their information in Filipino. They've been thinking about the formatting of their signage, because now all 4 languages, what they considered the kiosk, that's why we got the big kiosks, because of the addition of the 4th language coming in. So they're considering all the real estate and the translation and formatting of the materials. They held their first voting accessibility committee meeting for the year. They'll probably have at least 3 more this year. And again, the topics are about the accessibility of the voting equipment, accessibility of the toilets at the polling places, the porta potties, the type of training, the service workers receive and provide to voters, then any kind of troubleshooting on election day kind of issues that came up regarding accessibility. The precinct services section, like I said, they've been involved with the RFID the last week or so. And also they're looking at how they can gather more information on tracking the polling places that we use earlier in time, with the letters that we send out to the polling place owners, and also when they respond to us. And if there's a way that we can set up different fields in the database to capture the information. Right now, the database we use is the registration database, and the fields are set for all the counties in the state. So you have to find alternative fields to input information, which isn't really how the field is labeled in the system. Then you got to figure out when you extract information, you have to know the value of the information that you're using. So we want to make the fields match the information going into it, so people that work with us on a temporary basis be able to input the information and also be able to export it, and then they would understand what they're looking at, and allow us to actually track and to measure facilities through time easier as well. They're also looking at the consolidation of polling places already for the November election, since it's a municipal election, and trying to look at the criteria that we've used in the past, plotting it on a map, seeing what it means geographically, and then also considering the types of facilities that are used for when you consolidate, just get a sense of what all those factors are and see how it impacts the voters and if we need to make any changes. Then also with RFID and we're looking at the delivery of the equipment. With the RFID, that since we don't have to actually scan individually barcodes, we can pick up the signals from the tags. That changes the process. But then, since the process is changing due to the implementation of the RFID in a greater scope, what else needs to change, or what else can change with a different view of the processes? So they're sort of taking an organic review of the delivery process for all the voting equipment, which has been sort of initialized by our greater use of our recommendation of RFID going forward. One thing we're doing as well, this group is leading it, is we've contacted the Bay Area counties, Marin, Contra Costa, Alameda, San Mateo, Santa Clara, for 3 areas, how they conduct their 1%, just to get a sense. We're not just augment what we've been doing to see what else is out there. Then also how they conduct their canvas to see if there's information there that we can pick up how we can implement into our process. And that really is a response to the questions that Commissioner Drowning had before we went into whatever election it was, June or November. And so we just kind of carried that forward, and we changed a lot of our process as we thought about what we had done. And then we made what we thought were improvements to the process for efficiencies, but also for transparency, but then we want to see what's going on in other areas around us. So that's just a continuation. And then Also on the delivery of the voting equipment. Right now, nearly half of our equipment to polling places is delivered the Monday before election day. That's a lot. That's a very high ratio. We have a high number of polling places compared to most other counties. So we're trying to figure out what we can do to encourage the polling place owners to have earlier delivery of the voting equipment. So we've initialized these meetings with the other counties to ask that question, just to get a sense. So we'll share procedures, we'll share notes. Ideally, we'll have some site visits too, because as we know, since we have cramped quarters, a lot of times infrastructure is what causes your process, is what causes your procedures. Because if you have no space, then you're going to use space in a vertical manner, for instance, than in a horizontal manner, because you have to go up and sit out. So let's see what other folks have and how it does, how they use it. Maybe get some ideas there to go forward, especially as we have to go into a new warehouse site in the very near future. Publications, as I said, they've been working with updating a lot of materials into Filipino, but we're not just wholesale moving what's on a sheet of paper in English and translating into Filipino. We're also looking at the English that's on the forms and seeing if we can improve how we're stating information so it's more clear, so that when we do make the translation, the Filipino actually has a better starting point. Then of course we'll also edit the Chinese and Spanish information as well to coincide with the changes in English. Also, what we want to do is the voter guide now, the voter information pamphlet is, when we post it online, it's a PDF. So we want to see if we can make an HTML version of it that has links. That was an idea that we got from someone in response to our ask about our website. And so that might be a bigger project, but if we can actually create an HTML formatted voter guide, that might make it more accessible for people to actually read the information online. And then if we make it interactive, where they can link or use links to go to a measure or to paid arguments or the legal tax or whatever it is, instead of going through a PDF. So that's something we'll try for this November. See if we can get there. The MIS, if you've noticed, our website's changing over time. So the survey that we put up for last month. Also, I've been trying to contact people who are in the elections business and what their thoughts are about our website. Then our IT manager is taking all this information and also his general thoughts and specific thoughts on our website, how it can be improved. So we're trying to simplify the appearance, we're trying to reduce the number of clicks, we're trying to increase the uniformity behind the scenes of the pages, so we're not having to change. So if there's a change in election day, we're having to change 50 different pages. We can change the date, perhaps 1 or 2 or 3 pages that populate other pages on the website. That's ongoing, and this is something that we'll do this January, but something that we've already incorporated into our calendars that we'll do every January. So annually we'll do a review of our website, because it's never done, it's never over. And we're always making changes on the fly. So now at least we're going to establish a time when the department knows that the website will be reviewed, the IT division knows they'll be reviewing the website. And I'm sure as we go forward, our changes, our process around the changes will change and get better. But at least now, you'll start to see, even when you log on to our homepage, all the information fits on the screen. There's no need to go to scroll down to see the remaining links. It's all right there. So when we'll look at the length, the titles of the links, and we need to change it, we'll try to reduce it, simplify the language on the website. So that's a big project for them. They also had to do a lot of database queries to complete a survey from the Election System Commission on vote by mail, balloting, just how the questions are asked required us to run a bunch of queries. That took some time. They're nearly done with the timesheet database that I've been talking about for a few months. That's a bit of a big deal because so much of what we do, we're basing our projections based on our work from past elections. Then we measure our progress on a daily basis based on our projections, so we know if we have sufficient resources in one area, if we have an excess of resources in one area, if we need to move people or things around, and if we can. So this database, instead of using paper timesheets that are manually inputted into an Excel file format, then exported and manipulated, this will all be online now, so everything will be much easier for inputting and also for extracting and for getting some sense of useful information from our past work and projecting forward. But also the MIS group is very much involved in the RFID process. Voter services, a lot of duplicate analysis goes on now. A bit of a lull for the counties. So the Secretary of State pumps out a bunch of reports. We have to review them. We are mailing the letters to the voters whose ballots were not counted and giving them the reason. We've already sent the vote by mail ballot, the letters to the vote by mail ballot voters, and we'll be sending next week the letters to the provisional voters whose ballots we didn't count. They're also going through the materials in relation to implementing the Filipino. They did start, I think, the phones live today, so we now have. I didn't bring the phone number. So we now have a Filipino language line in the department. So that became reality today. That took some organization. Let's see. Then starting probably within 3 weeks, we'll be hiring the 1403 election clerks. We're going through the interview process. That's when we'll actually hire the folks who will be attending to the Filipino language line. So then they have to be certified by the city. So we'll be very early in implementing a big part of our service to voters in regards to the Filipino. And then today, yesterday brought in a new 1408 principal clerk in voter services. This is the person that will oversee the early vote, the voting center, we're going to call it now, not early voting, the voting center in City Hall, and also other functions. So she started yesterday. And the warehouse has been doing a lot of review and just a lot of cleanup, a lot of inventory, just to get us set for our budget really for next year, so we know what we need to order, and also to get a sense of, trying to get a sense too of our consumption rates of specific materials and items. Like, do we go through X% of light bulbs over election? Do pens? So they're doing that work as well. So.
Thanks. On the drive-in, I was trying to remember when the last year was that we only had one election, and I can't identify what year that is. So it's been a while.
Oh, 2013 would have been the last time we went one calendar year.
Yeah, one calendar year. Yeah, that's right. That's right, because there wasn't springtime.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there wasn't some springtime election.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So is that, because this was a very full report. I mean, there's a lot of activity going on as there is year-round in the department, but this seems just particularly busy. Is that a byproduct sort of the luxury of not having to already begin preparing for a June election? Or does this not strike you as sort of a lot of activity for a January?
No, it's not a lot of activity. I think what seems different to you probably is that the variety of activity is broader than it would be for going into an election. But no, it's when you go into an election, when you're really 6 months with close to election, you're already into the election. That just a lot of your attention gets specifically on specific tasks tied to a specific date for an election. Whereas now we're looking at a bigger picture than before we start to boil it down to specific.
Yeah. This, I think I captured most of it. I'll listen to the recording and try and get the rest, and I'll send you a copy of your section, because I want to include, really, as everything that you addressed, because it's interesting and useful. So, thank you. Any commissioners' questions or comments for the director?
Yeah.
Commissioner John?
Thank you. So, thank you for the report, Director Arns. So, just kind of, we have 3 questions. So first, with respect to the warehouse space in the port, you mentioned a couple of alternatives. What's the, what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Even that's not definite, because our lease expires in 2015, so potentially that's a hard date. We have to leave that site, but
When in 2015?
the end of the year. And the reason we have to leave that site is that the Giants would assume control of the properties. So our warehouse and also the parking lot across the street, and then the shed of the warehouse that's attached to our warehouse. But the Giants' control of those properties has other factors that would affect it occurring. So potentially, if the Giants can't really utilize the properties, the port maintains ultimate authority over the use of the facility, of the site. So the port potentially could allow us to stay even into through 2016. So that's been something that, that's been mentioned. I don't know if that will happen or not, but it may. So for me, 2015 would be the date we ought to work with, and ideally we'd be setting up, thinking about a move, within the next month or two. But I know it's not going to be that smooth. I know this, we're probably moving on election day, So the main thing really is to find the site, and to give ourselves as much time as we possibly can on either side of election to make the move. But I don't have, something must happen at this point. It's not, I know it's not going to happen that way.
Right. And so just counting backwards, how much lead time do you think we'll need? Right, so it's the end of 2015, that's our deadline as of now, realizing there's perhaps some flexibility. Where does, counting backwards, when should we start the building and stuff?
Now, really. Honestly, we need to find a spot. There is, if we had to, we could put a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of forklifts, a lot of trucks to make a move if we had to, and make it happen very quickly. There's a build out. We could do a build out even while we're already on site. There's a lot of things you can adjust. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing that is just like this must. There's a lot of things that can move around and change and be implemented in a different way at a different time. But we have to find a site, and that's the one thing that ultimately we can't change. And now is the time. If we want to make the transition as smooth as possible, we find something as fast as possible. But this is not the first time we've been in search of a warehouse. Commissioner Matthews remembers we had Pier 29 years ago. We had 240 Van Ness, which was a condemned building, which we worked out of there for a number of years. Finally, we got, despite all of our efforts, all the conversation, all the meetings, all the hearings, all the memos, all the commission meetings, all the posting on the web, all that, for years. Basically, somehow everything fell together, and we moved within 6 weeks from Pier 29 to Pier 48, just before a presidential election cycle in 2008. So again, to me, now's the time. There is no set date when we need to find something, when we need to know we're going to move. We need to find something as fast as we can so we can make plans.
I have a number of commercial real estate brokerage contacts, so I'll touch base with you about your specific requirements, and I'll put some feelers out. That's a large part of my work is for commercial brokers, so hopefully we can find somebody to help you find that space.
Yeah, that's my greatest hope
Yeah.
at this point. So,
What would you estimate the odds of going out of county?
You know, again, there's, I mean, you never know,
Yeah.
because you never know what's gonna shake loose, what's gonna happen, you know. Right now, from my dealings with the city, if the port can't step forward and provide us space, then I think the city would find us something out of the county boundaries. I don't think Department of Real Estate would find us something that's in San Francisco, and that's not a criticism. That's been what I've been shown. I've been to 3 sites out of county that real estate organized, and that's within the few times since I've worked with the board, but I've had contact with Department of Real Estate. It's been out of county, out in Brisbane mostly. So if we don't stay with the board, I think the city's default would be to have us go out of county.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, in some sense unavoidable. We're a very small, very small county, maybe the smallest county other than Manhattan, I think, maybe in America, 49 square miles stuck on the end of a peninsula. We don't have a ton of room. I'm sure, with you, the first time this topic came up a few years ago, when the commissioners identified that as a potential, not a big emotional touching point that like the grounds of your election are no longer in your own county. That's an unusual experience for most Americans, and not that it wouldn't get used. Everybody can get used to everything, so everybody will get used to it if it happens. But that's just something we'll need to be just a slight bit sensitive to for a bit, because I foresee public sensitivity around that for a while. Everybody gets used to it, but that seems, some old voice just says that's probably the way it seems to be shaking out. Any other commissioner questions for the director?
I have a few comments.
Yeah, please.
Questions. For starters, with regard to the warehouse, in the worst case, if the department had to be out of there by January 1st, would we be able to use the warehouse for the next election?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. As far as, you mentioned that you're involved in an effort where the different nearby counties are working together on some things. That sounds like a really interesting idea. And how many counties did you say there were in that group?
Marin, Contra Costa, Alameda, San Mateo, Santa Clara, so 5.
And what sort of format? Is it like you actually meet with the other registrars, or is it more of like a email type communication, or just out of curiosity?
Well, initially it was me talking and contacting the registrars, letting them know here's what we want to do. And then I don't want the registrars to be the ones to lead this. I want the folks who are actually directly involved in the work to do it. I want to know what's going on. I want to get the information. But I like for our folks in the least to interact with their peers at other counties, and I like for other counties to interact with their peers in San Francisco. So yes, I'm not looking to make this a registrar thing, but yeah.
Sounds great. So as far as some of the transparency measures, you talked about the making the VIP as HTML. That sounds great, and then scanning the arguments. All those things sound really good. Something that someone mentioned to me that I shared with you was the idea of sharing the number of ballots that remain to be counted by precinct. Is that something that you think would be doable?
Yeah, I think we did that last election. I think we had that.
Well,
yeah,
I think the question is whether it was broken down by precinct or not. I think you did have a global citywide totals, but I'm not sure if.
I thought it was by precinct.
Okay.
If it wasn't, yeah, that's our goal.
Okay.
That's our goal, to have it all broken down to that level.
And the usability survey, I think that's, it's amazing how many responses you got. I think that's incredible. And you did share me the link to look at some of the responses. And the two things that jumped out at me for the benefit of other commissioners is that, well, number one, the number of responses, but number two, that there were a lot of people that didn't even seem to know that there was a website. Is that right? I'm wondering if you can share with the commission like some trends you noticed in feedback.
Yeah, I haven't studied it. I've been more trying to get the numbers amped for the response rate. On Twitter, we went almost every day there for a couple of weeks. But one thing, most folks want to know, I think the highest number of visits to our website was where's my polling place. You know, it wasn't what's on my ballot, it wasn't, that was up there, but it wasn't what's on my ballot, it wasn't, you know, who's on the ballot, but where's my polling place? And then what was the second one? I can't remember. So that stood out. Our vote by mail status page and services, that really wasn't as used as much as I expected. The comments about they never didn't win a website, you know, what do you do with that? In a lot of ways, because I mean, who doesn't have a website?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I haven't really gone through the comments, I haven't absorbed that. But I think what surprised me is that really the highest usage of our site is where's my polling place? And then the results, of course, were, you know, they're up there and high, they were just election day. One thing we did too, we just started, our IT manager showed us in our staff meeting yesterday, the Google Analytics for our sites. I guess if you code the page in a certain way, then Google can track the traffic. And so each link, you can actually see I guess I can send it to you guys if you're interested. You can see of course it's changing. I mean, we're changing the website now, so what you're seeing from past formatting. So you can see the percentage of clicks on specific links by using the Google Analytics. So that will be something, I'll be curious to look at that and see what's going on. But I haven't, for me, I haven't even put my mind into it. I don't have much of a comment.
And my last question relates to legislation sponsored by the board. I read a couple articles. There's a recent, I guess I'm not sure if it's an ordinance or ballot measure by Supervisor Wiener about the initiative process. And there was a second one I read about from Supervisor Campos about the idea of sending all voters a vote by mail ballot. And I'm not sure if that was actually introduced or not.
I don't think so. That one I don't think so.
Okay. Then can you maybe share what you know about Supervisor Wiener's proposal?
Well,
If
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, for us, it wouldn't change much for us as far as our process is concerned. It's mostly for the proponents of the measure would be more impacted by Supervisor Wiener's amendments than with the Department of Elections, and so I kind of turned my mind off of it pretty quickly on that one. But so now the initiative would go, the issue of the initiative at some point in the process, I can't remember where it was, would go before the Board of Supervisors for public discussion. So that the proponents of the measure would have a chance to make changes to the measure they want to, for which they want to circulate a petition, or even pull the petition out of circulation, or pull back on their plans to circulate the petition. It also extended, I believe, that was a state change on the law. That was the main thing, was that there was a chance for there to be a public discussion of the initiative petition. But there wasn't really much as far as elections was concerned, so I didn't study it.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Yu.
Yes, thank you. So, I did come across minutes from a special meeting of, I believe, December of the Board of Supervisors Rules Committee about Supervisor Wiener and supporting the creation of open source voting systems, studying new models of voting system development. And so, did that get kicked into the department? Or I'm not sure. The notes here says that it was referred to department, so I'm not sure it was the Department of Elections.
Yeah, so Supervisor Wiener introduced to the full board a resolution that would have San Francisco join a group called California, what was it, the California Association of Voting Officials? And I forget what the date was of introduction. I think it was around election time. And then there was a hearing afterwards And the language of the resolution had changed where any reference to the California Association of Voting, joining the California Association of Voting Officials had been removed from the text. And instead, it was that San Francisco will support the development of an open source voting system. And I believe it was in the resolution, if not, it was a result of the hearing where LAFCO, the local area formation committee group, would study and issue a report on the feasibility and potential steps required for San Francisco to develop a open source voting system. And I did talk to the fellow who's researching and writing the report, and then I did get a call from Al Pash today, who's one of the proponents from CABO via questions, because he's also was interviewed by LAFCO. So that's where that stands. So I don't think that the report will be issued until probably close to the election, my understanding, November election, because it's third in the hopper as far as what LAFCO is considering as far as a significant issue that needs to be forwarded.
If there are any updates, can you let us know?
Sure.
Okay. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none. Step up, please. Hi. Your name?
Excuse me, my name is Carl Nicholas. I just came down here on a whim, because I know Chris a little bit. One thing I was questioned about, excuse me, would I be able to get data dump of the election results for San Francisco? You know, I mean, it would not have the person's names, but it would maybe be keyed, or would be keyed by the receipt number and show by each receipt number how they voted.
We don't, that's not the purpose. I apologize, and I'm glad that you're here, and I welcome you. Only pause your time for a second. We don't typically answer questions from the public, nor really can we, but that's.
I think I'm interested.
Excellent, excellent question, I appreciate it.
We just a little background, we do a little work with the Mayor's Office of Community Technology and the Code for San Francisco, and they had done some fun stuff this election with looking at how people campaign contributions and things like that. But it would be nice also, I don't know that you can, and it was very nice, I used the website to track my ballot, I know that was great fun. But then, you know, the one thing I'm interested in again is just to be able to see all of it, you know, the receipts and how they voted, and basically a check on how the totals are.
You know, when you use the phrase data dump, you mean essentially the results of each ballot card tracked by
The
potential
receipt number.
receipt number.
That's right.
All right, I think I understand your question. We've got a little time left. Anything else you wanted to add?
No,
or say?
that's kind of the only thing that's on my, I think that's on my mind when it comes to elections.
Thanks, Mr. Nicholas. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Seeing none. We have a groundswell of the public. We have 3 people. Very well. That is the end. Thank you, Director Arms. Appreciate that very much. Item 6, discussion possible action regarding items for future agendas. Anybody?
I just want to make sure that we have the secretary, hiring of a secretary issued to the next agenda.
Okay.
There were 2 items I wanted to look at perhaps at the next meeting. One was since we're taking another look at the voter education materials with the Filipino, I'd like us to have a discussion about how some of the ranked choice voting education can be improved and look at a little bit of the data around voter usage of RCV. And secondly, I thought we could have a hearing on what we would like to see in our next voting system. And I know the RF, since our current contract is ending at some point in the future, that we could have a discussion about what we'd like to see in that next system.
Okay.
That's all.
Any other commissioner suggestions for future agenda items? Seeing none, public comments on this item. Seeing no movement by the public. Thank you all very much. Item 7, as I said, I will be sending commissioners my draft annual reports by Friday the 30th of January. And that brings us to item 8, commission officer elections, as we do each January. I will, in a moment, open nominations for president. Any commissioner who wishes to nominate a candidate will state the name of that person. If that person agrees to run, then that person is nominated. When there are no further nominations, the president will close the nominations, take public comment if any, and take a roll call vote in which each commissioner shall state the name of the nominee for whom he or she is voting. If a nominee receives four or more votes, that person is elected president. If no nominee receives 4 votes, the commission may have further discussion and proceed to another vote. This process shall repeat until one nominee has received 4 or more votes. This process shall then be followed for electing a vice president. I now open the nominations for president. Who would like to be heard?
I would.
Commissioner Safant.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Jordanek for president.
Chris, would you be willing to run?
Certainly.
All right. Are there any other nominations for president? Seeing none, we have a ballot of 1 candidate. Any public comment? Seeing none. Commissioner Jung, state the name of the person for whom you vote.
Jordanek.
Commissioner Yu.
Jordanek.
Commissioner Safant.
Jordanek.
Commissioner Rowe.
Jordanek.
You're not out of this, Chris. but-
Myself.
Oneself. And I also will vote for Mr. Jordanek. So it is unanimous. Congratulations, and I thank you. The limousine is sweet. You'll enjoy that.
It's called Muni.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, hang on. Excellent. Well, that went well. Fingers crossed. Any nominations for vice president?
I nominate
Commissioner Jung.
Commissioner Rowe.
Commissioner Jung nominates Commissioner Rowe. Commissioner Rowe, will you accept?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other nominations for VP? Hearing none. Nominations are closed. Public comments? Seeing none. Commissioner Jung, please vote.
Commissioner Rowe.
Commissioner Yu.
Commissioner Rowe.
Commissioner Safant.
Commissioner Rowe.
Commissioner Jordanek.
Commissioner Rowe.
Jill, you're not out of this.
Rowe.
And I also vote Rowe. So likewise unanimous. I thank you as well. That's great. Thank you. And for our waves and waves of public for us, I say it only semi-facetiously, you guys are a large group for us, so thank you for coming. But I structured the agenda in this way so as to avoid a mistake that we made a couple months ago that was just sort of happenstance by having anything following a closed session. There's nothing to come back for after we move into closed session, which I predict will be this commission's vote to move into closed session in 9B. So once we do so, everybody is invited to leave. The director is released for the evening, and thank you again very much for your review. And we now move to item 9. We'll take public comment on anything about this. Seeing none, we now move on to item B, 9B, closed session. May I have a motion, please?
Move to go into closed session.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second that motion.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments? Seeing none. Any public comments? Seeing none. Commissioner Jung.
Yes.
Commissioner Yu?
Yes.
Commissioner Spont?
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordanek?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So it is unanimous to move into closed session. To disclose, we move out of closed session at 8:20. So we can change our audio files to move to a new audio file. This one. And 2020, and as of right now, you're now president of the commission, and you're now vice president of the commission. Thank you both for serving. And good night.
Thank you, Rich, for your service.
You are welcome.